And that kind of brings me to the first question I want to give to the entire panel. And this is that Southeast Asia is not nearly as easy to get around as, say, the EU, right? It's not an integrated economic unit. And so you're really talking about, you know, between 6 and 12 countries, each of which have their own local situations. How are you looking at this sort of situation? And what are some kind of ways that, you know, entrepreneurs have of globalizing these unicorns? Because really, with the possible exception of Indonesia, you really have to be multi-country in order to grow up to sufficient scale. So how do you solve this problem? How do you deal with this? Why don't I ask Peng to take the mic back? Have you seen some clever solutions to global expansion or Southeast Asia expansion?
I would even argue that Indonesia is not an exception, because when you look at the GDP, it's not that big.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not big enough to sustain large companies.
Yeah.
And Gojek is sort of an exception because it's like 12 businesses in one. So, and even then they're going international. Mm-hmm. So the good news is this is not a new problem now at this point in time. We've had dozens and dozens of companies that have done this. Ninja Van, which was flashing out there, they're in 7 countries, you know, 10,000 employees, you know. So we figured it out right now. There are basically 2 models, but it comes down to one. It is how you build a trust base, right, in each of these cities with different cultures, different languages, different legal systems, etc. And if you have that trust base with a few trusted, competent people, then the business grows. Mm-hmm. Because the problem set's about the same across Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. One way is to actually send one of your executives, the executives you trust within the inner circle, to the country you want to start off with, and then you start hiring, right? Yeah. And then you filter through a whole bunch of people, and then you lock in with one until that person finds you the trusted circle person. You stay in the country, right? And then you get to come back when you're done. That's what the Ninja basically is done.
Yeah, right? So you really have to be there until you really get the trust kind of established.
Yes.
And you can trust more people.
It's amazing how much of this comes down to trust. And if you look at some of these big companies, I won't name names, but I know one of the companies can't go to Thailand because there's no one there they can trust. Right? I mean, you know, so it's all about, do I believe this person will take care of me when I, you know, spend money in this place? Yeah. And it's as straightforward as that. The advantage, by the way, of folks here is if you went to school here, you look around and your classmates are from all over Southeast Asia. Right? You've got people from Philippines, from Thailand, Vietnam. Just make friends with them. And then when you go back, your life's going to be a lot easier.
And this is one of the benefits of SEA Connect.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the region here in the room, which is great. Vu, in terms of expanding, so you're going back to Vietnam first, right? And how are you handling the situation with spending your time here versus spending your time in Vietnam? And also, you know, are you looking to go region-wide?
For our company, we actually have offices in Europe, like in Portugal, US, which is in Silicon Valley, and Vietnam. So the way on how you handle it is you just basically travel around enough to meet people and team. I think back to what Peng said, Southeast Asia, even though the entire region, I think the good thing is the region has most of the similar challenges like infrastructure, payment. So all of these issues are not new to one country, except for Singapore and Southeast Asia. I think Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, we all have some sort of similar challenges. Last time we were in Indonesia, you go on bike. Vietnam, you go on bike too. You can't really go by cars. There's no parking. There's nothing in there, right? So no paved walk and whatnot. Payment structure. Vietnam, we don't have a lot of access to credit card. A lot of people don't trust that they can use credit card because if I give you the credit card, what happens in Vietnam if you have certain fraud that people use your credit card, the bank won't give back the money to you. Now here in the US, where you just call up and say, hey, that I don't authorize that transaction, and you set. In Vietnam, it was not the case, right? So people are very afraid of giving that. So cash on delivery is still very important in Vietnam. Surprisingly, for apps, people do cash on delivery, which is strange. Things like Vietnam, for example, if you do like subscription model, which is auto renew, like every month, the company just charge you your credit card. In Vietnam, the users kind of call you up and say, hey, you're cheating, you charged my credit card before I authorized you, even though it's Google and Apple charging you. So these issues are not new. Indonesia faces the same challenge. So the good thing is the challenges are across the region. Now, to deal with it, you really need the local team. I don't think there's like one solution that you sit in Indonesia that you can solve the entire region. So the way how we do it, and many companies do, is you really need that local partner. In Southeast Asia, relationship base is important, so that trust coming down, right? You don't just, hey, we are a global company and here we are expanding. People want to need you, need to see you face to face. So I think for us, what we do is we have a local country manager in Vietnam that is on the ground that I trust, that will be on my behalf, handling all of the business relationship, partnership, marketing, branding, and whatnot. And I just travel back and forth.
Okay. So Casper, how does this work to you in the food delivery business in terms of going region-wide?
Yeah, so for us, I think we're looking at, first of all, we want to tackle the good thing is, because the cities in Southeast Asia, like make a city like Jakarta, right? You have like 10 million people there. And the greater Jakarta area, you have another 10 million people there. So if you perfected that, that's already a huge market, right? And probably the same problem is gonna exist in other bigger market. And I see everything as opportunities. Because if Southeast Asia is that easy to operate as in Europe, as in the US, there's probably going to be a lot of foreign company coming in already and take all the market share already. So this is a huge opportunity for the local, right? People who have experience to do that. And I think going back to Peng, the one good thing about that is right now we have partners who have operated in those countries already. So if we are thinking of expansion, we are working with them, right? We work with Ninja and without delivery.
I also want to follow up and ask you about incubators like TechGrind or Product Pink.
Yeah.
Because you've had experience with those. Yeah. Do those contribute to this kind of ability to establish circles of trust quickly?
Yeah, so we got, as Kulina, we got into the Google Launchpad Accelerator here in San Francisco. So I was here earlier this year as well. So that one kind of, we were one of the 4 Southeast Asian startup, the only one from Indonesia. So that kind of helped us have that connection with other founders in the region and ask them a little bit more about what's going on. During this trip, I'm actually on for another one called Black Box Connect, which is another Google for an entrepreneur accelerator flying here for 2 weeks. That's why they invited me. It's perfect. I hang out here in the Valley. I'm the only one from Southeast Asia this time.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of like getting that knowledge, getting the connection, because there are previous other people who you can talk to and reach out to. It's not that new anymore. I'm not one of the first one who does this.
Right. So anybody on the panel, are you seeing a lot of more incubators being established around the region? How's that? What's happening in that sector?
Yeah, there are. I think there's almost an incubator fatigue at this point. There's lots of them, co-working spaces everywhere.
Yeah.
I think they help, but beyond a certain point, I think we're past the point of being very additive. If you open up another incubator, it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Okay.
I think I can add on that a little bit. I think when we choose accelerator to go in, we go with a purpose. Right? For Google, we want to utilize that technology. Like if we were to get in another incubator, it's probably not a good time for us, but if we already passed that. And because most of the people who operate incubators there, most of them don't even have experience operating the business locally. like how we're teaching someone to operate locally when we don't never operate locally. So it's like I can read books to get some of knowledge, and I'm here for BlackRock because it is focused more on leadership. So that's what I need right now. So I go into each of these with the specific things in mind. I know there's like a lot of them opening up. Most of the VC have co-working space. We're going to have incubator. There are more.
Yeah, okay. Helen, from your perspective, this kind of global strategy again, what's Alation going to do? Can I ask, or is that too strategic?
It's a little bit private.
Okay.
But you know, we have actually a lot of clients already global, right? So we
Yeah.
sell to the global 2000. So they actually have already operations in Asia, in Europe, and all over. So we're getting pulled into all these regions just naturally, and we're basically staffing up support around the clock, right? So just any global operations, you have to think about, you know, all of the whole product, not just the product itself, but the localization, but the services, the local partners is really important, right? We're still Series B, so as we look at the next round of funding and all of that, also having really strong local partners who can have your back, not just for the funding itself, because funding is different, but really having people who has local knowledge who can help you succeed, right? And having that trusted network is super important. So we're going to be looking for the next set of partners in the local who can do the services implementation as well as providing that advisory at the local